Do the Denver Nuggets have a championship mentality? What are Joker stats going to look like at the end of the year? Plus, we look ahead to the Blazers game tonight. All that and more on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network. Thanks for joining us and making this your first listen each and every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Glad to have you with us on a Thursday. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by Adam Mares of DNVR, director of content. You can find him on Twitter at Adam_Mares. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's show, we're going to talk about, do the Nuggets have a championship mentality? What does that mean? Can you have it this early in the season? We're going to take a look at the stat lines for the season and whether Denver can go above or beyond player by player on some of those stat lines. And the third segment, we're going to take a look at the Portland Trailblazers game on Thursday night and how they match up and what we think the outcome will be. We'll preview that game in the final segment. Adam, we'll start here with, I've been thinking a lot about this because, so the Boston Celtics went on the road last night to the Phoenix Suns house.
Oh, man, I caught that one. This is what's funny, Matt. This is how I am. That game was over by the time I switched over to it. I'll watch the rest of it.
Nice.
I just enjoyed the 40-point. It was like the dumbest game that I was just like, you know what? I'll have this on in the background. I don't care.
And the Celtics just absolutely smashed Phoenix, just destroyed them.
They were up 45 or something. It was like, I mean,
yeah,
it was honestly reminiscent of Game 7 last year against Dallas. That's how much they were just completely dominating.
Here's how this should work. Okay. How it should work is my reaction to that should be like, man, the Celtics are going to win the title. How could they be stopped? Look at this team. Look at what they put together. As long as they're healthy, this team is going to absolutely dominate. This is one of the greatest teams we've ever seen. And instead, Adam, I may be a contrarian, but it's not reflective here. My genuine reaction is to be like, awful early to be playing like this. It's awful early to be playing this well. It's awful early to be jumping on teams like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're the thing about it is, Matt, and I hope you're not offended by this. It's not even the contrarian. It's what's the big takeaway, and then what's the secondary takeaways, and then you go to the secondary takeaways and make them the big takeaways. That's my opinion. So you're not wrong here. I think the answer is also that the Celtics are really freaking good. Are they peaking too early? Might also be true. Like that might also be a big part of this equation. But they're really good. They're really confident. They have their swagger. But I do think that if you ask me what the more interesting takeaway, I think it's what you're getting to.
The Celtics were, this is from Kellen Olson, who writes for a site in Arizona. The Celtics were absolutely ruthless, a familiar sight in Footprint Center, but not in those jerseys. Quote, it's funny. They looked a lot like we did last year, Chris Paul said. Coming off a finals loss, they looked like a well-oiled machine. The Suns also talked about how they had so much more physicality and jumped all over it, and they were just more engaged.
That's a fire quote, by the way, man. You almost you didn't even put the punctuation on it. I like it. It reminds me a lot of us last year as a great Chris Paul's good at this too. Like, you know this. Chris Paul is good at that right there. Like, oh, we just got our butts kicked. How do I throw a zinger that doesn't sound like an unintentional zinger? That's what he's doing.
Yeah. And there's like conversations about the mentality and like how they jumped on. The Celtics play so hard in every single game and they jump all over you. They're not a try-hard team. They made the finals last year. That's not a try-hard team. I've seen try-hard teams. Tom Thibodeau's coached them a lot. But they also are definitely like, they have no coast in them. And I'm not saying this from the perspective, the natural takeaway is like, and this is why the Nuggets are good, because they don't try as hard. Instead, it's a matter of, I don't know. Everyone kind of jumps to this idea. So like, you're right that I do jump to those secondary and third ideas. The most obvious question of why does a team play with intent, purpose, physicality, and intensity? the most natural response to that is that's coaching, right? It's got to be coaching because the coach sets the mentality and the idea of the team. And what's interesting about that is,
well, here I will say one thing though. It could be something there. I mean, one of the things that's so fascinating about the Celtics is that they're in their third coach in 3 years. There is maybe something too, like the freshness of it when you don't like absolutely get it wrong. You don't Brian Shaw yourself. Maybe there is something to the freshness of a new coach brings that enthusiasm.
and maybe that's true because Brad Stevens is so well regarded as a coach. In the first year after he left, they had started to play not as hard for Brad in his last season. And then the first season under Udoka, they played really hard. And then they played really hard this year. My kind of response for that would also though tie into the Suns, where the Suns were the team that played extremely hard both last year and then coming off the finals or 2 years ago and then coming off the finals loss last year. And now they're just kind of like a good team. That's really the difference. And if you pay attention to Suns Twitter, that's how they feel. Is like they think they need a trade. The Suns have the best record, or until last night had the best record in the Western Conference.
Right.
And their fans are like, we need a trade. This is not good, because they recognize that the team is not playing with that same level of intensity, that they don't have that same kind of spark, the same kind of things that Denver fans, I think, are experiencing, despite the fact that the Nuggets have a better roster this season. Right.
Yeah.
And so
I like this comment real quick. I like Danny Perry says it's culture. Sometimes it's tied to coaching. Sometimes it isn't. I agree. Like, I think a lot of times it's just like, how is the team feeling? And what are all the reasons that brought that feeling to the table? So some of it for the Celtics is probably new coach, new system. There's like a newness to it. But a lot of it is probably, we were so close last year. Like, we were so close. Let's get over the hump.
2014, the Spurs won 67 or 60 plus games. Like, I think it was 67-inch games. And then they almost lost to the Mavericks in the first round, but they won the title. So like, this stuff is my big thing. The thing I try and get to is, and this is what's so fascinating for me, is that it is ephemeral. It's not concrete. Like, I pay attention to a lot of concrete factors. I'm talking about things like, how do you play and pick it? Like, what's your points per possession average in different pick and roll coverages? It does not get more niche and like concrete than that. That is simply like, and that's why I pay attention to the plus minus. It's just like, X thing happened, right? Like, this is what has occurred when they're on the court. But the keys in the Celtics plus minus is amazing. Okay, so why? And it's, well, if you watch them, they shoot the lights out and they play hard as hell. That's honestly like the key to the Celtics, is they shoot the lights out and they play hard as hell. And I feel like you would say, like, well, also their offense is free flowing. I've seen their offense be free flowing in the past and them not be as effective because they were not playing with this kind of verve, right?
I will say though, the Celtics are also supremely talented. Like, they just have a lot of guys that can beat you.
Are they?
And they have one guy. You don't think they're talented?
I don't think they're supremely talented. No.
What I mean is, I think that they have a great superstar who's playing at an insane level right now in Jason Tatum. They have a really good number 2 in Jaylen Brown.
Who's and then playing exceptionally well. Like, Jalen's ridiculously, I know, in terms of shooting right now. He's never
shot. They're on fire. But then they just have a bunch of guys who are like problems. Like, they just have a bunch of guys that bring something to the table. And on any given night, you might hold Brown and Tatum to a good number, although most teams are not. And then you have to worry about a Smart or a Brogdon or a White or just some other guy that's like not a great player, but capable of like hurting you in a quarter in a way where you're like, man, we shut off all the other avenues and they still got this guy going off.
Who has a better top 3 in talent, the Nuggets or the Celtics?
I mean, right now, probably the Celtics, because I think, Jokic number 1, but Tatum is right there. Like, Tatum's playing like an MVP this year, so I have to give it to him. So Denver has the edge at number 1, but I think number 2 is an easy edge to the Celtics. And then when you get to number 3, who's Denver's number 3 right now? I think Aaron Gordon is the number 2 for Denver. So number 3 is
Michael Porter Jr.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, Jamal's been good. I mean, they both had their stretches, right, of really good and really bad.
But it's guys like Grant Williams.
Grant Williams is a good player, I think.
Yeah, he's good. Like, I'm not saying that. See, here's the thing. I'm not saying that they're not good. I think they are all good. Like, there's not a weak point in their rotation.
Who's just good defensively on Denver as Grant Williams?
No one.
Yeah, so that's my point. Like, all right, so even though he's just a role player and he's just good, he's probably the best defender of the two teams or better than any defender on the Denver roster.
I think
And then
it's
he's
an
not
interesting
even their
question.
best defender, arguably.
But I think it's also an interesting question. Does Grant Williams look like this kind of defender no matter where he goes? Because I think he doesn't look like this. I think he looks like this in Boston. I think when he gets paid by another team, I think Boston knows that, and that's why they're not going to give him the extension.
Could be.
Like, and that's part of it. And I think,
but you could say the same thing for Draymond. But he's a great defender, and all that matters is he's a great defender where he is. So I mean, Grant Williams is tough, man. Like when Denver played, like Grant Williams was a big factor on Jokic. That's rare. What happened?
So I think a lot of it is like the Nuggets are definitely missing something in regards to, because somebody said this, that Dustin said this. Do the Nuggets need a chip on their shoulder? I feel like they should be playing that way. And that's really what a lot of people kind of came into the year expecting, right? Was that they would jump on teams.
They have to figure out, they have to problem solve. I think that's different than a chip on your shoulder. Boston, while they have a new coach and some new things in place, I still think they largely knew what they were and needed to perfect it and the intensity. Denver kind of has to discover who they are. They have never discovered who they are with Michael Porter, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Jokic. That's part of the discovery path. They don't know who they are with this bench unit. So I think it's hard to be the full throttle Celtics version when you're still trying to figure out that many things.
Yeah. And I think, and I will continue to say this. Like, I don't think this is the way that the league should be. I don't prefer it this way, but this is just what I've seen. It's better to find that out in January, in February, and in March than it is in December. It's just better. I don't know what else to say.
So you don't think the Celtics are going to maintain this pace, which, to be fair, no team maintains this pace, especially offensively, all year. But I kind of expect them to be easily the number one seed in the NBA this year. Like, I just think that they're probably, as much as they can have a month of regression or even a stretch of regression, I still think they're going to be the number one seed by a good margin.
Yeah. I think the Bucks beat them in 6.
The Bucks are the second best team, so like that's not even a hot take to me. That's just like,
but that's the thing though. But right now, Boston should be a massive favorite over even the Bucks. That's how good they are.
Yeah, I mean that part is fair. Like, you can't tell a juggernaut in this early, but they do look like the best team. Like, they look like the favorite. That's the best I can say, is they look like the favorite. The Bucks look like the second favorite, and then all these other teams look like they're kind of in Denver's boat to various degrees, where you're like, I think they're good, but we haven't seen it yet.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about we'll look at some Nugget stat lines for the season. We'll talk about whether they're going to go over or under those numbers. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I need to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. Finding the right person for your business is such an important part of success. You've got to be able to find the right person and make sure you got the right candidates that you're going to interview. And that's why you need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. It helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making this part of your day and your first listen. Make sure your second listen is Locked On Sports Today. The biggest stories in sports. You get to go behind the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. Adam, we're going to do a little bit of over-under on the current stat lines for your Denver Nuggets. Do you want to go ahead and start with the main man, Nikola Jokic?
Let's do it. You want me to go through the stat line?
You go through it.
Jokic currently sitting at an even 23 points, 10 rebounds, and 8.9. So we'll say 9 assists. So 23, 10, and 9. He's also shooting 63% from the field, 32% from 3. What do you see that rounding out at? 23, 10, and 9. What do you see going up? What do you see going down? Or is this more or less what he's going to be this year?
This feels a little about right. Maybe I think a little bit down on scoring because MPJ's been out. So I think MPJ takes some of the shots that he's taken. It was funny. His over-under on points per game this season was 27. And like I laughed when I saw that and bet the under. I was like,
that was a
no.
lock.
Yeah, no. The
27, by the way, he'd have to average 29 a game basically the rest of the season to get to 27. So that one's almost already a lock.
I think the rebounds are solid. I think the assists might be a little. Well, no, I'll say the assists might be right about where they're at. Like,
yeah,
he's more likely to have high assist, low scoring games. I think with this lineup and roster at full health than he is to have high scoring, low assist games. Right.
9 assists though is already up 1 from last year, and it's up 0.6 from his career best, which was 2021 when everybody else, that's the last season everybody was healthy. So 9 to me also feels about right. I don't see him getting that over 10, even if he goes back into pass mode, which by the way, I don't know that he's going to. If I look at this stat line, I think they're more or less right. I actually think his points might go up a little bit, 23.5 to 24, because I do think he's turned on the scoring a little bit. Like I think that was an early season set the table. I think he knows he has to be more aggressive. But I don't think it'll be by much. If I were to guess at the end of the year, I'd say like 23.7. His rebounds maybe go up a little bit, 10.5, and then his assists stay where they are, 8.9.
Let's talk shooting percentages because I want to get your perspective on this. 63% is obviously just liquid insanity fire, but I will say that most guys in the league right now are shooting really like Jokic is shooting at the rim about what a player of his caliber and efficiency would in this season with where percentages are.
Do you think that's early season, or do you think that there's something to the NBA getting better offensively?
I think there's something to the NBA getting better offensively.
Me too.
I think after 2 years of I think it's one of those things where you have 2 really drag ass seasons where everybody was exhausted and the off seasons were short. And this summer, everyone was just really excited to play basketball again. And they had more time off. And I
don't know if that's it. To me, it might just be that the NBA is getting people are figuring out the new NBA. Here's a take I'm workshopping, Matt. I don't know if I believe it yet, but you might find this one interesting. I wonder if young players have an unusual advantage, meaning not common across the last 50, 60 years, an unusual advantage over older players right now in that the NBA has evolved so much over the last 10 years that the younger players are growing up a little bit more in this style of basketball than older players. And what I mean by that is even 30-year-old players who are not considered old, they were in the league when the Curry Renaissance happened. Young players who are 21 years old grew up practicing that style of basketball. There's still older player vets are more talented, and there's all these other aspects. I'm just saying that's unusually more innate in some of these young players to play certain styles where older players had to adapt to them.
I think that's part of it. I have another one for you. Did you know that this season is the first that we've seen in the last 6 seasons where switch defense has a worse percentage points allowed given up than drop or at the level coverage?
That's wild. I wonder why.
Because I think teams have finally gotten used to playing it. If you notice, the 1 weak spot on the Boston Celtics is their defense. They're a switch all team. The Heat have been one of the best teams in the league because they throw a bunch of weird stuff at you. Miami struggled in that area. It's kind of interesting to think about. I do think that teams are going to have to find the next big thing to go to defensively because just I'll just switch everything and I'll muck things up isn't working the way it used to.
Yep. I think there's something to that. But anyway, that's why I was looking at these young teams that aren't as bad as they usually are for a tanking team. Like outside of the Celtics, the top and bottom seem a little bit closer than in most years. And I think some of that just has to do with these young guys get threes up there. Like Bones. Is he like a well-polished player? No, but he knows how to get his threes up off the dribble, which is a huge skill.
Snail says, so we should play young players over old players? Bet.
Yeah, that's exactly it. All right, next guy.
Wait. I got to ask you because this is a big thing. Jokic is at 32% from 3. I don't know. I need your thoughts on Jokic in the 3-point line.
I mean, he's 32% every year, so he's probably going to be between 30 and 34%. So I think he's a 34 career. Last year he was at 34. He had a 38, then a 32, 31. I think 32 is about right. That's the one part of his game I just don't have that much confidence in.
Okay. All right, let's do Jamal.
Jamal Murray is at 17.5 points, 3.7 rebounds, which Malone thinks needs to go up, and 5 assists. He's also shooting 43% from this field and 36% from the 3-point line. So 17.5, 4 and 5 will round up.
I'll go slightly above. I think he finishes 18.5.
Okay.
And that's mostly based off of, I think his 2-pointer will improve. His 3-point shot's actually been pretty solid at 36%. That's good for a guy coming off of the injury that he's coming off of. You know what's weird is that 78% from the line. That's a number that you have to expect goes up because he's been so good as a free throw shooter historically. Like that's definitely the injury. 5 assists feels a little high for him. Do you agree with that or no?
No, I mean, I think what's funny about Jamal's numbers is if you go through the last several years, they're like identical to what he's been. Like Jamal's kind of actually playing at the level. The only difference, the noticeable difference in his output is getting to the rim. He's not getting to the rim like he used to, but his points per minute are basically in line with what they've been. Points per 30, here's funny. Points per 36 last year, he was healthy, 21.5. Points per 36 this year, 21.2.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it and go 2021, right? In the 48 games he played that season, and that was a season where he was exhausted coming off the bubble. 21 points per game, 48% from the field, 41% from three, 4 rebounds, and 4.8 assists. So, like I said, probably like more in the 4.8 range, maybe 4.7, 4.5. Maybe it's 5 just because of the level of talent, like the conversion rate on assists is higher. I do expect it. Look, I said this consistently that guys in the first year after the injury, they come back and their field goal percentage drops. I got asked on the fan war room before the season, like, well, he spent the entire year off. How's that affect it? And I was like, I don't necessarily know that it does. I think a lot of it is it's about rhythm, comfort, and getting used to where your body's at. Coming off the injury, you have to get used to a new body, essentially. And Jamal is very much, I think, getting used to a new body.
Here's what's an interesting one. He's actually getting to the rim sort of in line. I mean, he's at 15% of his shots are at the rim. Career is 18. Last year he was healthy. It was only 12. So maybe there's a stylistic change there I'm not noticing. But the field goal percentage at 64% is actually his career average. So he's always been this level of finisher at the rim, which is a little interesting. Last season he was healthy. It was 81. It was a big jump. So I don't know what to make of Jamal. The more cynical part of me says, we talked about this, I think, offline, that he always has been like this, where he's had months where he just looks like he's not that quick, not that scoring. He looks like this. And then he has these pockets where he looks like a superstar. And maybe this is a typical Jamal rhythm, less than a getting back from injury Jamal rhythm. Probably a little blending of the two, but that's why he's so hard to project.
Let's do Aaron.
AG, oh man. Aaron Gordon's at 16.6 points per game, third leading scorer, 16.6. He's about 6.5 rebounds, 6.7, 2.3 assists. And then the crazy one is he's shooting 62% from the field and 40% from three. So if I round up 16.5, 7 and 2, what do you think, Matt?
He's at 40% from three and 64% from the line. I have to look and find if there is a closer gap between those two figures amongst any heavy minute player in the league that shoots this many. I think it's easy to go ahead and say the 3-pointer will regress. I think it's important to credit him for how he shot this season from three, because when he takes those shots, there's kind of a from everyone, and then it's like, oh, hey. And he's hit some of those transition threes, and those have been big momentum plays for the Nuggets. Like, that's a very valuable shot when AG's hitting them. And here's the thing. AG's just done whatever everybody's asked him. Hey, you need to play tougher inside. Got it. No problem. We'll do. Yeah. He's absolutely been just a beast bullying multiple defenders inside. Hey, you need to be able to hit some threes on the outside. No problem. Got it. Like, I have just so much respect for how Aaron has approached this season and playing with this team. 17, probably rebounds might go down. 17-6-2 sounds about right. Depends on how much he plays with the bench. Because I kind of like the idea of him at 5. I kind of think that might be like a viable small ball 5 option. Like, I kind of like to see him stagger with Zeke in the second unit. I'd like to see that.
I mean, that would be an interesting one for sure.
It'd be interesting. I don't know if we're going to see it, but we'll see. But I don't think we're going to see a massive drop off. I don't think he'll because he's already off to such a good start this many through the year. I don't think we'll see him at 33% from three. He'll probably be somewhere between like 35 and 38. You
should also remember that he missed like his almost all of his first 23, so he's actually shooting even better than that lately. But nonetheless, I'm not going to buy it. Like, I think he's at 40%. He'll probably finish at like 36 or something. I mean, the thing that's interesting is he could shoot 40% on the volume he's shooting, which is decent volume. He's taking 3 a game. And would teams still leave him open in the playoffs? I think yes.
Yeah,
I think
they'll leave him open. They'll
like,
absolutely leave him open. They'll try and create high pressure situations for him.
Yeah, but I do buy that he's going to continue to have this great season. So if his numbers dip from 16.6, they won't dip by that much, in large part because I think the interior stuff, I think that's not going anywhere.
There are 2 guys. There were 2 shots actually from KCP that encapsulated this in the last game. If guys catch it wide open and they try and settle, and fire, I feel like their percentage rate, and this is across the league, is like 30%.
Right.
And I think if they just catch and fire on an open look in normal rhythm that isn't hurried, I think their conversion rate's like 45%.
Should we take our break and keep this going? Because there's some interesting ones ahead, but I know we're long.
Yeah, we can do that. We can preview the game real quickly at the end.
Quick preview.
Let's go ahead and take a break. We'll do that. We'll come back and we'll talk more about the stat lines for the Nuggets when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. First, I need to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. I talked up my game too much last night, and I had a 1-7 night last night. It was a brutal night in the association. I got way too overconfident, took money lines instead of just doing the spread. We've been a lot better on those. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, we got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Final segment here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and being a part of the show. Lots of folks hanging out in the comment section. We're talking about what we think the Nuggets stat lines are going to look like by the end of the season. I can do Michael Porter Jr. for you, Adam. 16.4 points.
Okay. I was going to, okay, go for it.
16.4 points per game, 6 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 1.1 turnovers, 0.6 steals, which is not bad. He's got basically a stock steals and blocks per game, shooting 47% from the field, 43% now from 3-point range, and 80% from the line. So what do you think about MPJ and where his game goes from here?
The number one, where I would want to start with this, Matt, is games played. He's at 16 out of 24. So basically 2/3 of games. That's the number I'm most curious about if that goes up or down. Is he going to play in 2/3 of the games this season when it's all said and done? So I would start there, and then I would just look at the points per game. It's so hard. Man, Michael Porter's the hardest one to project. I'll still go up because I think his numbers, for one, came down a lot in the games he played without Jokic, which I just don't think he'll do again. I think they'll go up, but I'm probably not optimistic about him playing in 2/3 of the games.
He's averaging 12.9 shots per game compared to Aaron at 10.3, and because Aaron's drawing a ton of free throws, and Jamal at 15.3. Does he need more than 13 shots per game?
So hard to remember, right? But I would say this was an absolute yes up until the games where Jokic and Murray didn't play, and then it's like, man, this guy can't get a shot off. So maybe he's getting the exact amount of shots he needs because he can't get anything else. I'm still going to say yes, but again, it's completely predicated on whether or not he can get back on the court and stay on the court for another extended stretch. If it's 16 games at a time, it's just going to be tough. It's so hard to build a rhythm and a chemistry with a team when you're 16 on, 10 off.
I have a hot take. His 3-point percentage will finish better than this at the end of the season.
Is that a hot take? He was at like 49% until the
but you would expect it to regress back to like 40 because that was so.
But it already regressed, is my point. He shot like 3 of 30 his last 3 games.
Fair. I think he probably goes up. I think he'll have a streak. Like, here's the thing. I think MPJ goes in stretches. I think he's going to have a stretch sometime in January, February, March, where he's the best player, and we're talking about how incredible he is, and he has like a 40-point game, and then I think he'll probably have a lot of stretches where it's like, not great from MPJ. It's going to be inconsistent. I will say, I don't know how worried. I get it. Not only do I get it, I truly do understand all the concern based off of his availability. But like, he's not out with back soreness. He's got a foot bruise, and you can't play on a foot bruise. He's out. He's expected to come back soon. It's like he gets to have the normal wear and tear of most NBA players. Like, he doesn't need to be more durable because he's had 2 back surgeries. He gets to have the same number of, like, yeah, he's got an ankle or whatever, right?
I just think you always will question whether these things are related. For example, Matt, is it on the drop foot, the heel bruise?
Yeah, fair enough. Let's go to Bones.
Bones Highland's at 14.5 points, 2 rebounds, 3.4 assists, and he's shooting 44% from 3 on 6.4 threes, which, by the way, is the second most. It is more threes per game than Jamal Murray, who is playing 8 more minutes than him. So 14.5 is really the only number to look at than 44%.
You know what's really interesting is how rough he started the year, because I put a bet on him for 6th man of the year in mid-November, because before he got hurt, he was leading the league in scoring off of the bench after October. So it's kind of an interesting question of, which guy is he? I still am trying to figure that out, I think, a little bit. I think if we look at the 3-point percentage, I want to know your thoughts on it. What do you think about his shooting efficiency and if that's going to continue?
I mean, 44% is ridiculous. So I have to think it's going to regress. I mean, if he's getting, because the volume of shots he's taking right now is also wild. On a per 36 minute basis, he's up to 11 threes per game. That's Steph Curry territory. I think Steph Curry is 12 per 36. So he's taking Steph Curry volume of threes and hitting Steph Curry efficiency of threes right now. I mean, if he is that, then we got to change the whole equation for the Denver Nuggets. Like, we got to hold on a second, timeout. So I have to assume it's going to regress. I don't know that the volume will. People don't like sometimes the shot selection because the threes he takes are wild. Until he starts missing them, I just don't mind them.
That's me. I can't help it. I'm just stubborn and old.
I mean, he's going to go through a slump and then it's going to kill you. So, but I just want to see, man, like, he's a great shooter. He really is a great shooter.
This is since November 1st amongst all bench players who have played at least 10 games. Bones is 5th in bench scoring at 16 points per game, shooting 43% from the field and 44% from 3. In that stretch, he's only averaging 3.3 assists. Do his assists go up or down?
I think up, because the assists to me are a function of a functional second unit, and I think Denver will find that in the rest of the season.
Is there anybody else whose stat line you want to go through? Do you want to go through Bruce or KCP?
Just Bruce. I mean, if we can go quickly through Bruce's here. What do we have on his?
11.3 points per game, 47% from the field, 41% from 3, 4.5 boards, which is pretty impressive given that he plays 30 minutes per game, and 4.5 assists per game. He's averaging 11, 5, and 5, that's really good. Yeah. 1.1 steals and 0.5 blocks. You and I have been on kind of a, Bruce Brown a little bit underwhelmed, and I think the defense can definitely improve, especially they need to find different matchups for him where he can be more effective. But Bruce Brown's still really good and really helpful for this team.
He's really good. I mean, it's funny. I think all those numbers are going down. And I think the biggest reason they're going down is 30 minutes per game, I think, goes down. That's the highest in his career by, I think, 8 minutes. But a lot of that was guys were out. Michael Porter was out, so you play him a little bit more. I think his minute totals go down. But I'm with you. This is by no means – Bruce is a great player and a great piece of the team. I don't think he is the fix to Denver's defensive problems, as evidenced by the fact that they continue to be completely terrible on the defensive end.
I don't know about the minutes thing, and the reason I say that is he feels he's just too multi-positional.
If it's not Michael Porter, it's going to be the other guy that goes down, and then we're like, into there. Yeah.
That's the thing. If Jamal's out, who starts? Bruce Brown.
You're right. You're right.
If KCP's out,
who starts? Go down though. I still think they'll go down.
Like the first 3 players in the rotation, Jamal, KCP, and MPJ. Bruce Brown is the sub for all 3 of those players.
The one thing I'll say is I think Christian Brown is in line for more minutes, and he probably eats up just 2 minutes of Bruce Brown. Like, not a lot, but just that's probably one of the guys whose minutes he takes, gives a little rest to. And then I don't know. He's at 30 minutes. I would bet from here on out, he's somewhere around 27 minutes per game.
Somebody mentioned in the comments that the plus minus is a huge concern for him. What do you think?
I think here's my take on individual plus minus. All of it has to be taken with you. It all should have you asking questions. So sure, why is it like that? But I would say in large part it's because Bruce is the solve to Denver's problems, and he doesn't solve Denver's problems. But it's not that he is a problem. It's that it's, hey, can we stick him in this lineup that's not working to save it? And the answer is no. But it's the lineup that was bad, not Bruce that was bad in that lineup.
The idea coming into the season was that Bruce Brown could be the secondary creator next to Bones Highland. And like, oh, that makes sense. Like Bones is on ball, heavy usage, creator, and then like Bruce is the connector. And those have been the worst minutes. In 203 minutes, they're minus 80 together. Like that combo in particular has been really rough. And that's with and without DJ. So maybe they figured. Now the other answer there is like maybe it's not a combination that doesn't work. Maybe they just got to figure out how to make it work. But that's been the combo that's been really bad.
Yeah, I would agree.
Let's talk about the Blazers game. So they play the Portland Trail Blazers tonight. The Blazers, I think for a lot of people, they're a surprising team. I took the over on them because I was really kind of weirded out by how much everybody was like, Portland's going to be not good. And I was like, they have Dame. They're going to be good. They may not be great. They'll be good. Jeremy Grant's played well this season. I think Yusuf Nurkic is having, and everyone knows what this means if I say it. I think Yusuf Nurkic has played really well this season. Anthony Simons, obviously, the Nuggets know what he can do. His best game of the season came versus Denver. They're 13 and 11. Whoever wins this game will have the lead for the division. The Blazers can catch the Nuggets in the standings tonight with a win. They are 5-5 at home, 8-6 on the road. Blazers this season have been they've been missing Dame for so much. Like I'm pretty high on them based off of the fact that Dame hasn't been available. Like they keep getting judged on their overall performance, and I'm like, yeah, but they got to have Dame. Like that's vital for them. In point differential this season, non-garbage time and cleaning the glass, Portland's at minus 1.1, so that's not great. But again, I think this gets back into it. When they're fully healthy, I think this team is really good. This is going to be a tough matchup for Denver.
Really tough. I don't expect them to win it. Quick guards have killed Denver really in the past and in the present, and you've got that here. I don't think it's a total coincidence that Anthony Simons went off like he did in the last one. He got really hot. But look, Jose Alvarado got really hot against Denver. There's probably something to it. So I think it's a really tough matchup. Denver needs a stable. It's funny because you have a big homestand coming up after this, but it would really be nice to enter that homestand on a win. It really is funny how much it would kind of swing the way you feel about the team. If you get a win tonight and then you get all these home games in a row, you just go back to feeling, cautiously optimistic about the Nuggets. If you lose this one, Saturday's game gains a little bit more pressure. So I don't expect Denver to win. And I'm surprised, by the way, Matt, that the line's only -1 for Portland.
The numbers are always going to love Denver. They're going to be, this is all still heavily weighted towards preseason too. And that's the other thing is the books are always, they're anchored to their preseason lines. Right. And if you look at the Blazers with, I think, a 39.5 win total and the Nuggets with a 49, that's where that comes from. Yeah, I expect them. I think the Blazers win tonight. Both of us think that. I'll also say this. If they win 125, 124, I don't think you can be like, whew. I think even then it's like they need to have a game where they show that they're the aggressor. They need to have a game where they show they're the better team. They need to have a game where they show they have the kind of mentality they need. They haven't done it.
So the question tonight, who plays off the bench?
Oh, Lord.
DeAndre, Zeke, Christian Brown, Davon.
I honestly don't know. I think it's possible he goes back to the vets. I think if we're giving him the benefit of the doubt here, which you don't have to, but if you're giving him the benefit of the doubt, I think that he was whatever it was they want to get through the Christian got through, and he understands like I can't play Davon. Like he tried to be like, yeah, well, if you don't do what I need to, I will just start Davon. And they watched those games and then was like, I can't play Davon anymore. I think he's
usually he makes moves that are several, like 2 or 3 game blocks. So I kind of suspect that tonight will be a similar block as the last one. Like Christian Brown will play. I don't know about DeAndre, but I just think Christian over Davon will be the move. But it's tough because you're getting ready to go up on a homestand where I feel like that's where things normalize. And I wonder if you play Christian tonight and lose again, do you go back? Is that like oh, it didn't work. We're going to move on. Let's go back to the old ways. That's the one thing I would worry about. So we'll see. I thought Christian was good last game. Hopefully he's good this game.
5-0, and Christian Braun plays more than 15 minutes as a Nuggets fan on Twitter.
Some of that, I hate those stats more than any other stats. Like some of that, how much is that when Denver was up 20 play? Houston, you're up 20, so he played 15 minutes. Like, come on.
I think it's, what is it? He tried to remove some of the garbage time from that stat too. I checked it this morning, and it wasn't as garbage timey as I thought it was. All right, let's go wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets. We'll have a recap tomorrow. We'll break down the Blazers game as well as get you set for the weekend. Hope you guys have a great day. Finish off your week strong here, folks. Have yourselves an enjoyable day. We'll see you again tomorrow.